Welcome to the Thermal Review, the podcast that explores the latest advancements in thermal imaging technology and its applications in various industries. I'm your host, David Purcell, and today we have a special episode focused on early fire detection using infrared cameras connected via the cloud for monitoring biomass wood piles. Today we have an exciting conversation lined up with a team of experts from Biomass One, a leading biomass power plant located in White City, Oregon. This conversation was previously recorded at the Biomass One facility during May 2023, and we're thrilled to bring it to you now. But first, let's set the stage. While essential for biomass power generation, wood piles can pose a significant fire risk if not carefully monitored. That's where infrared cameras come into play, leveraging their ability to detect temperature anomalies and identify potential hotspots before they become full-blown fires. By connecting these cameras via the cloud, real-time monitoring and early fire detection are made possible, revolutionizing how biomass plants like Biomass One safeguard their operations. In our conversation with the Biomass One team, we explored their journey from using an IR camera connected to a smartphone to implementing a fixed IR camera cloud-connected solution to monitor their hog fuel piles. We'll learn about their challenges they faced along their journey and the remarkable results they've achieved. We'll dive into the benefits of early fire detection and the role of cloud connectivity in ensuring continuous monitoring and the potential impact this innovation can have on the biomass industry. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired by the Biomass One story and the strides being made in early fire detection using infrared cameras connected via the cloud. Let's jump into our conversation recorded at the Biomass One facility right here on the Thermal Review. Toby, good morning. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Good to be with you, Brian. Welcome. Got everybody here. Awesome.
Come on in there, Todd.
No worries. Come on in, grab a seat, guys. So we're recording, right?
Yes.
So maybe we go back again, very casual, guys. But you were talking a little bit about like your situation before. In fact, you talked about this being a long journey. Can you just talk about that long journey?
In the past, we've had multiple fuel pile fires, and we've always tried to do something to alleviate that. Hire personnel to watch it, do stuff like that, and none of it seemed to be working. So we started using a small thermal imaging camera, and it started working really well, and we just started moving up from there. Larger and larger cameras, and now we have cameras on poles.
And you talked about a situation once where you just were looking out. I mean, why do fires happen here? Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Cool. You got this one?
Yeah, sure. Well, we build heat in that pile, and the taller that pile is, the more compression goes on. So you build heat, and then the sun bakes on it. And one time I was up in the control room, we were doing source testing, and it was the pile facing us, and we had no troubles with it at all. And then I just looking at it, and then just poof, a little fire come up. So I called on the radio. We were all right down there, and the wind was blowing. Before we know it, it's clear over the whole pile. So it just happens so fast. I mean, you can have guys looking at it, and you still be behind the gun. So we had to do something. The fire department, big boss man, we had to get something solved.
Yeah, so early detection is a big part of it, because even we have a roving fire watch during our fire season, and he can drive by something, and he's not even halfway around the pile, and the fire will start up behind him. And with the naked eye, you can't see that stuff, but with the thermal imaging, you can find those hot spots, and you can address them before they come to that point where they're going to catch fire.
Yeah. How does a fire impact you guys? What does that mean to biomass if you have a fire?
It's burning our fuel that we make power with.
Yeah.
Well, it's doing that. It's causing unsafe conditions at our plant and around our plant. Our neighbors, there's all sorts of troubles with fires that you're not. Those fires are supposed to be in the boiler. not out on the pile. So we needed something to detect that, let us know sooner than later, and something that was foolproof. And we just didn't have it at that time. We were having a lot of troubles. So like Toby said, he did the IR camera and on his phone. And I drive by and see him out there, this big pile on his phone. I'm like, what is Toby doing out there? But it actually turned out real well. And then we went ahead and bought this FLIR camera here, which is just amazing. I mean, the thing just works really well. And then it just progressed. We were still having troubles. So Toby found the Mobby Therm.
Yeah.
And, we've been real happy with it. It's really, text messages, the whole 9 yards. So we have coverage. I could be sitting at home on a Saturday and feel pretty good. And that wasn't always the case.
Wow, that's awesome. Toby, can you describe again, why did you even buy like one of these mobile things, to go, like, what's that story? How did that start?
Well, you got to know Toby.
Yeah.
Toby is a bird dog. If there's a problem or anything, Toby's going to stick on it. He's just going to figure it out.
Hunting purposes.
Yeah, a lot of it was for hunting purposes, kind of. I don't know. I used it around the house. I have this credit card that has a lot of points on it, and I had all these points saved up, and it was something I wasn't going to spend money on to begin with. But I saw it on there, and I thought, well, that's kind of neat. I can use that. I can see deer or something on my property or whatever, at night. I thought that'd be kind of cool. So I bought it, and it didn't work as well as I thought it would for all that stuff. But it did work. I was using it for around my vehicles and stuff, and it was. I could see the brake drums, and I could see, if a brake was grabbing and it would get hot, So it did have uses, and then I brought it to work one day and started using it around here, and it worked great around the fuel pile, And then, I knew the resolution wasn't all that great, but it helped me. It was a good tool for finding a hot spot at the base of the piles.
And originally we were using it to find the hot spots on the boiler skim.
And bearings and
bearings and stuff like that. Yeah, so I used to, because we had air leaks inside our boiler and stuff, and that causes a lot of the metal to get really hot. Almost makes like a forge when it's getting that oxygen in there. So I would use it to find
boiler
that.
skin out.
And the more I used it, the more I found use for it, and the more things that I found I could use it for. Electrical stuff, panels and stuff like that. And it was all good, but it wasn't accurate. It was accurate to a point where it helped, but that's where we bought the
It got us close.
It got us close.
And what model is that?
This is the E96.
Yeah.
FLIR.
And that was actually recommended by our insurance risk assessment guy, just for doing thermal imaging on electrical equipment and whatnot. And so then Toby started using it on the fuel pile.
And bearings and stuff like that. And for the fuel pile, it worked really good for that. But you're able to do reports on it and stuff, and I can document everything. It's pretty nice. So,
but there was still a guy had to have that in his hand, and he had to be walking around the pile. And so, it was good for, quick shots, but we had to have something more permanent.
Yeah. And see, in the past, we had stationary people that we'd get from the temp agency. We'd station them on the pile. And that's the cameras, they don't go to sleep. They don't show up to work late. You don't call in sick. They're working all the time. And that was some of the issues we had with some of those stationary folks that we had sitting out there. Because they were working 12-hour shifts. That's a long time to be sitting out there not really doing nothing. But the cameras, they really helped out on that. So it was really good.
And we were spending much more than the whole camera system cost in 1 year on those temps.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so it was
twice as much
quick
more.
payback.
Yeah.
I'm real curious. How does this system impact Brian's life?
I don't really have to mess with it. I just set it up initially, and Toby is the one that configures it. I do the computer every once in a while on it, and that's about it for me. It's been
but
pretty solid.
the initial setup though, it couldn't have happened without Brian, because he understood all that. That was the first time I ever messed with fiber optic cables and stuff like that. Brian had already had experience. IoT controllers, Brian already had. I didn't know anything about it. It's just talk to me, words, I guess. But Brian understood all that stuff, and he was able to configure the whole thing and set it all up to make it work.
So Sorry.
I know it affected my life because I was always the first one here because I live closest to the plant, and I was here fighting the fires. And now we got this early detection, and I haven't gotten called in on a fire, and since we've got this system in.
Yeah, we went from a reactive way of fighting fires to a
Exactly.
preventative way of fighting fires. Is what happened.
And it
with
works.
the thermal
It works
imaging, because
good.
we can tell before the fire is going to be a fire. We know when it's going to be trouble, and so we just take care of it at that point.
And everybody knows right away that's on the list. You get a text, boom.
Mhm.
So I'll call control. I know Toby's calling too, so sometimes I just let Toby do it. But call control and ask, hey, you guys on that? Oh yeah, we're on it.
Yeah.
So it's checks and balances with something that is very important. For sure.
Awesome.
Stopping the fire before it happens.
Yeah, that's the key.
Any idea what square footage area you're covering? I guess I could go and look this on Google Maps and do a calculation, but what size area are you guys monitoring?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well,
pretty
probably-
good size. It's 600 feet long.
Yeah, well, the sprinkler in the
600 by
middle
800
shoots
feet.
350 feet all the way, so
Yeah.
it's 350 foot one way. So
I'd say, I mean,
2-3
5
is-
acres,
well,
maybe?
5, yeah.
5
Yeah,
acres?
Three
this
to 5
is
acres.
broken. We have two piles, though, two separate
Yeah,
piles.
just the one pile. We
Just
don't
the
have
one
phase
pile.
2 done yet, and that's the second pile. So just the one pile, what is that? Probably
Just
3 acres?
3 or 4
Yeah,
acres, yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. And you definitely want to be up high.
Mhm.
So you get,
yeah, and before when we started having all these pile fires, before we even had the cameras, we put in these sprinkler poles, and that's where them cameras are mounted, is on the sprinkler poles. And them
Yeah.
cameras are pretty impressive to watch. I mean, it's mesmerizing. When you're driving to work, you see that sprinkler kick on, and you can see it. I can see it from Dairy Queen clear down the road. I mean, it's
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
good.
They're impressive.
I like to call them water cannons.
right.
But, they're way up on poles. Control room can push a button, and
Yeah.
we got coverage, overlapping coverage.
They're
Really-
not just reacting to flames anymore. Because of the camera, they can be proactive and hit it with water before it's ever an issue.
If the wind comes up, because that's a biggie. In the afternoon, we get the wind. And if there's no wind, that fire's, a lot easier to take care of course.
Yeah.
But you bring that wind into it and all bets are off. It's blowing sparks all over the place. And so, boom, you see it, you hit the cannon, and even in dust, when we don't have a fire and it's getting a little hot out there and we have loose material blowing around, we'll hit those to knock the dust down also.
Awesome. You kind of described how does the alerting process work here? I think you kind of touched on it. It sounds like people are getting alerts, alarms. You're getting out of bed and coming down to check out the plant.
Right.
I mean, I'm saying that kind of jokingly, but that does happen, yeah.
That's the truth of the matter. Yeah.
And there's guys in the control room. Maybe you can describe how that process works. So hotspot is detected, and I don't know if you have tier settings on your alarms. Is there like a low level? We've reached this temperature. Guy goes out with a shovel. Next level, or how does that look?
Well, we don't have anything like that per se, but we do track it with the handheld. The handheld I find is more user friendly for getting into, because the fuel pile is changing all the time, and the cameras on the poles are set. So a lot of times that image isn't directly shining right where we want it, but we get to go up with the handheld, and we can get a better idea of exactly where it's at. And so we're looking at temperature on that. So when it reaches a certain temperature, we're like, hey, we need to dig this out.
And
So-
we set that.
And we'll set that temperature.
Yeah, what we want.
And
It's real user friendly. I mean, it really is. And like I say, those notifications to everybody that fast, that's the difference. Really is.
Big difference.
So in the control room, is a notification being sent there as well?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
will they actuate a sprinkler based upon that?
Sometimes, yes. Or they'll definitely have somebody
they'll
go
look
out
in the
there.
camera. They'll look at the camera and see if it's on fire. If it's on fire, then definitely they'll get a camera or a sprinkler going. But if not, they'll just call the loader operator. He'll go check it out.
We've got a big monitor in the control room that shows all 5 cameras at once on a big dashboard thing, so they can look right at it. Then they get on their other screens on the control system. There's an alarm that's input into that system that will go off,
Awesome.
and then they can go and look at it.
You talked about how fires are an issue year round here, not just during the season? I mean, is
Well,
that
when
right?
you're storing the fuel, it's you get green fuel, wet fuel, and stuff. So moisture has to escape from there, and it creates gases, and so it's happening year round. It's like burning firewood. You don't put a green log into your fireplace. It's not going to burn very good. So we have it sitting out there. It's being cured for a certain period of time, and then we'll rotate it in and feed it to the boilers.
You want it to go into the boiler just about the time it's ready to burn out there.
Yeah.
So it's a juggling act.
Just the nature of those piles, the wood decomposed underneath generates heat, and the more weight on top, the more heat.
Yeah, the more compaction.
What's the smallest size you get of a hotspot you've been able to detect with the cameras? Again, like an alarm on.
Well, just the heat. I mean, you get the heat before the fire
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, do you notice like you can have something that's maybe a foot in diameter of a hotspot, or we're talking like?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And usually when we start seeing those hot spots, that's because the fire is already inside the pile. You can't see it from the outside. You can't detect it from the outside, but it'll get a crack or something or a fissure inside that pile and work its way to the surface. And that's where you'll see like a foot. You'll get a little hot spot. You start looking at that because that's where it's venting. And that's it just gets hotter and hotter. And we know it's in there someplace. And then as we dig into it, we find it.
So you can see a pretty small area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we back it up with the handheld, probe on it with the loader, dig into it.
Yeah.
We know we pretty much know where they are. But the fires are weird on the pile because you could be a fire over here on the pile, but the vent's over here. And it's just covered, smothered and stuff, and it's just following a crack inside that pile.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah. And every time the loader's driving on there, moving the pile around, he's actually opening cracks up. So where you didn't have a fire one day, well, now it's built a heat source there. And
If you were to estimate it, how many fires do you think you've been able to prevent this, maybe since you've installed the system?
hundreds,
Yeah,
All of them.
lots.
hundreds.
All of
Because
them, really.
it's all about
We haven't had
early
trouble.
detection on this stuff. It's all about early detection.
And we have done some other things. We have lowered our height of our piles a little bit to help too. So it's been a combination of things, but the 24-hour surveillance is really, if you don't have that on a hog fuel pile, you better get it because you'll run into trouble for sure.
Sooner or later.
Yeah.
And usually it's about shift change. When nobody's out there watching the pile.
Yeah.
Like
That's what
Toby
we've had
said,
a lot of problems there.
like Toby said, the biggest thing is, the cameras never sleep. So they're always watching. So that's the biggest thing right there.
Yeah,
They never call in sick, and they're always here. So.
And that wraps up our special episode of the Thermal Review. We want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the team at Biomass One for sharing their insights and experiences with us. Their dedication to safety and innovative approach to early fire detection using infrared cameras and cloud technology are commendable. As always, make sure to subscribe to the Thermal Review on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date with the latest advancements in thermal imaging technology. We appreciate your continued support and look forward to bringing you more exciting episodes in the future. Until next time, stay safe and remember, infrared technology has the power to protect.